Yo! Get it, yo, let's go get it, Karcherman. 제가 지금 여기 서 있는 이유는 여기는 바닷가뿐만 아니라 산도 있는 Newport Coast, OC, Cali. 근데 여기서 내가 어떻게 내려갈지 잘 모르겠어. 멋있게 올라서 있지만 내려갈 때는 조심스럽게. 사실 내 친구 한번 여러분들이 What's Up Man 구워서 본 적이 있어요. 의사 친구인데 그때는 자동차 조금만 봤지만 이 친구도 저와 함께 자동차를 너무나도 좋아하기 때문에 그것도 공통점 제일 큰 거 하나, Porsche. 그렇기 때문에 이 친구를 오늘 초대해서 사실은 이 친구가 우리를 자기 집으로 초대해서 Let's get it. What up, dog?
What's up, man? How you doing? How you been?
You good? Introduce yourself.
My name is Ivan. Friends with June. I really like cars, and me and June kind of bonded with the car affection.
And we've been friends for, oh wow, we've been friends for about 15 years now. And he's a doctor. 의사예요. 자, 하지만 생긴 거는 그냥 보통 사람처럼 생겼지만 이 동네도 우리나라 치고는 뭐 강남보다 조금 더 여기 집들은 가격이 대부분이 한 바닷가 근처니까는 300억, 400억. 일단 그게 중요하지 않고 오늘 소개해줄 자동차는 Let's get it. 여러분들도 알다시피 Porsche 하면은 뭐 911 알잖아요, 그죠? 1960년 중반서부터 쭉 생산한 Porsche. 하지만 우리나라에서는 많지 않은 996 Twin Turbo. 이 자동차는 자기 아버님이 타시다가 나이가 좀 드셔갖고 동생한테 준 거고. 여기는 또 우리나라에서는 Cayman GT4 있긴 있지만 이렇게 어느 정도 튜닝 되어 있는 차는 없고 대부분은 그냥 순정으로. 이 친구는 하지만 자동차를 그냥 달래는 사람이 아니고 드라이빙을 합니다. 트랙에서. 그렇기 때문에 트랙 튜닝을 해놓은 자동차들 오늘 소개했습니다. Ivan, introduce this car.
So this car is actually my dad's car. He bought it pretty original back in 2001. I think it's the first year it came out, or maybe the second year. He drove it for about 15 years, back and forth to work. And you know, when he got a little bit older, he didn't want to use stick shift anymore, and he wanted to get rid of it. And at the time, I was doing a lot of track driving, and I was looking for a car to kind of build on. And you know, he was offering to just give it to me, so I took it, and I've had it for about like 8 years now.
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot with it. Originally, I meant it to do track driving, but after a while it kind of got to the point where I kind of loved it too much to just kind of thrash it on the track, and so then I ended up getting the GT4. But I've done a lot of stuff, including suspension, limited slip, obviously the wheels. I restored it a little bit because it does have a lot of mileage on it, so I did a lot of restoration with it, just light stuff, nothing crazy, but like some of the interior pieces were kind of falling off or whatnot, so I had to kind of reupholster some things, and I repainted the front because there's a lot of rock chips that happen. So but other than that, like I use it all the time. I drive it probably at least a couple times a week to work.
And how many miles are on this car?
Almost 120,000.
그러니까 이게 다 합하면 지금 16만, 17만 킬로를 탄 자동차인데도 불구하고 왜 있잖아요. 우리나라에서 보면 대부분 자동차가 있으면 그 자동차를 새 모델이 나오면 팔고 그러는데 미국에서는 그거보다도 많이 이제 아버님이 자기 아들, 형이 자기 동생한테 이렇게 물려받는 자동차인데 Let's explain to them some of the parts that you've done.
So these are BB's E88 wheels. I like them a lot. I mean, they're kind of one of the original racing wheels that a lot of German sports cars use. I also did a coilover suspension, so I did Olin Road and Tracks, which are kind of like a mix between street driving. If you want to do occasional track, they're really good for that too. The limited slip, this car actually didn't come with a limited slip originally. It was one of the original cars that did that, so I didn't really like the way it made me feel on track because it would do kind of really unpredictable things and think that I'm turning and try to brake. And so what I did is I changed it to a mechanical limited slip, and then that's pretty much it. I have a stage 1 tune on it. It's just a little bit more horsepower than stock.
So basically it's remapped a little bit, stage 1.
Right.
And why don't we, you know, a lot of viewers, they're gonna look at this car and they're gonna wanna, on your suspension setup, they wanna put the wheels on there. They wanna see what the offset and the size on the wheels are. Obviously, you know, these are 19s.
Yeah, actually, I don't even know the offset.
Okay, what about the size? What is it, 19 by what in the front and 19 by what in the rear?
That's a good question.
It's 19 by 8.5 in the fronts, and it's probably 19 by 11.5 in the rear. Basically, this BBS E88s were actually the racing wheels, and in the beginning when they made them, they were the center locks only.
Yeah.
But now you have them so you could street them, right? But like their specific racing wheels and like magnesium wheels and whatnot, and the center lock wheels are all actually made in Japan, and these are one of my favorite wheels.
I love them.
And I really wanted to get these for my GTI.
Okay.
But you know, they were out of stock, so I ended up getting the 50th anniversary. 자, 타이어는 Bridgestone.
Yep, RE71s. They're actually pretty equivalent to the Cup 2s in terms of grip, but they're significantly cheaper. I think they last longer. The Cup 2s, when I run them on track, they're good when they're really new, and then they fade really fast.
This guy is the one that you actually track.
Yeah, so this one is the guy, I bought specifically to track.
Tell them about the first one that you had.
So yeah, so this car is, when I was tracking this car, we had a brake failure on it. And so at the time, my family said, well, why don't you buy something new so that in case you do get in an accident, you'll be a little safer. So I got this car early on when it first came out. I think I was maybe first 5 person to get it in Southern California. And I tracked it a couple times and it did really well, but unfortunately I got in an accident. So I crashed it going in Auto Club Speedway and it totaled, and I got another one that looks exactly the same as the other one.
This car is old school.
Yes.
The technology is old school, so you can't really compare it to the new GT3s or the new turbos. But how would you compare this to this on the track?
It's completely different.
Right.
Even though they're both Porsches, the engines are very different. One's a turbo, one's naturally aspirated, one's mid-engine, one's rear engine. This has a lot of the new kind of suspension feel with all the adjustable, it adjusts every millisecond to the conditions of the road. This doesn't. This is just really standard.
It's really raw.
It's much more raw. This has electronic steering. This has hydraulic steering. So very different. Overall, just to give you a little bit, when this car, the way it was set up, I did the Auto Club Speedway, the Roval at 158, 157 was my best time. And I'm not a professional driver, but just to give you a comparison, the first time I stepped into that car, the first day I took it out was 152, 151.
그만큼 이 자동차는 new technology versus old technology. 하지만 이 자동차도 트윈 터보이기 때문에 이 자동차만의 스릴이 있는데 이 자동차는 그만큼 또 사람을 감싸주는 자동차예요. What tuning do you have done on it?
So this is just pretty much stock. The only thing I did with this is the wheels. The wheels that came with it initially are actually not forged. They're cast, even though they look like the GT3 forged wheel. And if you look at a lot of the development pictures for the GT4 on the Nürburgring, they actually use the E88s from a lot of the spy pictures that I saw. So the original come with 20-inch, and these are 19. I like 19s a little bit better. I think they have a softer feel to it.
They have a little bit more meat on the bones.
Yeah, and actually I think the Motorsport, they use even smaller. They usually use 18-inch.
Yeah.
So
that's the regulation.
Yeah, okay.
So the suspension, you have it lowered though.
So so the car comes stock with coilovers.
Right.
So you're meant to be able to lower it. The difference with this car is very built for people to go to the racetrack, but it's pretty much stock. And you don't have to do anything to these cars. They just take them on the track and they'll run forever.
이 자동차는 어떠냐면 이 자동차가 하도 다른 거는 이 자동차는 만약에 앞에 딥이 있으면 하다가 덩덩 할 거를 준비하고 있는데 이 자동차는 뭔가 딱 들어갈 것 같은데 보면은 누가 걷다가 마술로 뭐를 깔아주는 것 같아. 스무스하게 가는 게 It's like magic.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah.
When you jump in from something like this to this, suspension, if it's too hard, when you kind of go over bumps, your car will jump. So you kind of don't like that. But then when you go on a corner, you want it to be really hard so that both wheels kind of stay firmly attached to the ground and kind of evenly. Otherwise it leans and all the weight goes to one side. So you're kind of always having to go between the two. But in this car, because it has this electronic suspension, it'll loosen or soften the suspension up when you're going over bumps to keep traction, but then harden it up when it needs to when you're kind of going around corners. So it feels really drivable and comfortable while you're kind of around the track, which is something that most of the time we don't really say.
This is the MK1 GT4. 지금 나온 자동차는 MK2 GT4는 사실은 엔진 사이즈가 이건 3.8이지만 새로 나온 건 4.0이에요. 근데 이 3.8은 터빈이 아니고 NA 모델부터 처음부터 시작해서 NA를 위주로 만든 엔진인데 4.0 요번에 나온 거는 조그만 디스플레이스먼트에다가 터빈 2개를 달아서 자동차 마력수를 얻으려고 만든 엔진이기 때문에 처음부터 그렇게 디자인을 했기 때문에 그 엔진하고 이 엔진하고 캐릭터들이 달라요. And not to mention 이 자동차는 particulate filter를 집어넣기 전이기 때문에 사운드가 훨씬 더 좋고 새로 나온 GT4는 뭔가 소리가 It's not as exciting as this car. The MK1 GT4 to me I think is a little bit more raw, better designed than the MK2.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think I like the MK2, of course.
No, I do too. I like the way it looks, yeah.
But I don't know. I like the fact that this is the first original GT4. I like the first version better. It's actually a lot more limited. I believe they have lower numbers.
Well, let's do this, man. Let's take it for a drive.
Yeah.
자, 서스펜션은 되게 하드합니다. 왜냐면 코일오버 셋업, 스탑, 하이트를 내렸기 때문에 지금 단단하고 그리고 또 휠 자체도 일단 매뉴얼에 스틱 시프트이기 때문에 역시 피드백이 되게 좋아요. This is stock.
Stock shift.
Wow, I like it. It's so, to me, I like it just how it is. It feels notchy and like, you know, it's not rubbery feeling. 자동차 진짜 response 너무 좋아. To be honest, I think this is a funner car than a 911.
It's lighter.
It's lighter. You could throw it more. You could throw it, and it's very. I mean, like it's very nimble.
Yes.
이게 진짜로 다른 자동차들 왜 electronic power steering 있으면 이게 이 딜레이가 있는 것처럼 나하고 자동차가 붙어 있지 않고 뭔가 떨어지는 그런 느낌인데 이 자동차는 response가 곧바로 있네요. You get the feedback. There's really good feedback actually. Oh, I like it. Woohoo! Yeah, this feels good. I like it. The feedback is awesome. 야, 좋네요. 좋아요. I want one. I want one. You know me, I like small cars.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big car guy, but I think, you know, this is a very selfish car, to be honest, because it's just for you, right?
That's right.
But for fun factor wise, I think this is, you don't need anything more. This is it. Response 좋아요. This is good. You gotta say response 좋아요.
Response 좋아요.
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 That's right. Dude, this thing is, I'm getting one. I'm just gonna get one. After pandemic 끝난다면 살 것 같아. Yeah, see, this car is already different. 캐릭터가 벌써 달라요 because the engine is behind the rear axle, so the way that the turning ratio and the feel is way different. 다릅니다. And this ride is much more, it's harsh. 이 자동차 서스펜션은 되게 딱딱합니다. 이 자동차는 그냥 카트라이더처럼, and there's a lot of squeaks and whatnot.
Yeah. You get all that.
But I like that because it kind of makes me feel like when I was tuning cars when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
It has that 1990s, you know,
Yeah,
feel. to the car.
feel.
Right here.
So we're going back in time. We went from new, semi-new to now old.
That's right. Yeah, this car when you go like 75, you feel like, you know, you're really going 75.
And see, here's what you mean by the hydraulic steering.
jiggle,
There's a little jiggle.
That's right.
There's a little play. It's a little play, but that's fine. I'm used to it. It's what I grew up on. Okay, let's see this. Let's see what the twin turbo can do. You're old, but 역시 turbo. Woohoo! Yeah, and the shifter, I love it. And these brakes are 똥이야. 브레이크는 똥. Brake is just like dong, 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 shit. And it's got, god dang, it's because it bites late, really late.
Yes, you have to push it really hard.
Really hard. Oh.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
It's just different.
No, you know, I always say I like NA cars, but you have to admit, turbo cars have their own charisma.
For sure.
And it's that, like, you know, it's like you're sitting there and later on you're getting like surrounded by all this power going, you know? turbo 자동차는 매력이 또 있어요. 제가 NA 자동차를 많이 좋아하지만 turbo 자동차의 또 그만의 매력은 이거. See that? And these brakes, I'm getting used to it. 이 자동차도 진짜 오랜만에 타보는데 재밌네요. It's like turbo has its own charisma, man.
This particular turbo I like a lot. I mean, some turbos don't react the same. This one actually has a decent sized engine behind the turbo.
Sure,
That's why.
sure.
I mean, the Metzger engine it's a race engine.
Yeah, it
So-
was made. It was made for that, and they made it all the way up to the 997.1 turbos. It was the Metzger engine. Yeah, I really like this. And you know what? I really like these seats, man.
Yeah, me too.
You see, it actually has a lot of back support and
That's
enough,
right.
and it's cushy.
That's right.
It's better than your GT4
They
stock
are.
seats.
They are. I know.
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah, this car is good, man. I mean, you know what? It's got 100 and somewhat thousand miles. The car is freaking, 21 years old. Come on.
It's an old car.
It's an old car, but it's still doing its deed. And then some, because you had a limited slip. I feel that, by the way.
Yes.
I can feel it. Because this is all-wheel drive, right? And a lot of times in all-wheel drive cars, you get that understeer a lot. This one, oh, I can feel it. I can feel it. It's good. 자, 일단 두 자동차를 타봤습니다. 사실은 둘 다 그냥 완전 다른 괴물이에요. 캐릭터 자체도 다르고, 얘는 내가 타임머신 같아요. When I used to tune cars in college, 그 느낌을 주는 그런 터보 자동차. Suspension도 rough하고, everything is just raw. 그런 느낌. 쟤는 탔을 때 very forgiving. 나를 위해서 내가 조금 부족한 면에서 자기 채워주고, anywhere that I'm a little, lacking something, that thing makes up for it. This one, no makeup. You have to do it all yourself. So, two different beasts, very, very beautiful cars. To me, they were both really fun. But I hear that Ivan은 요 자동차들은 재미로 타지만 사실은 매일 차는 또 데일리가 있습니다.
It's a 2016 standard M3. I kind of bought it as an extra automatic car. So that way, I don't want to have all my cars manual. So if I ever have to get into traffic or I just feel lazy, I like to drive this car.
요 자동차 자체도 그냥 순정은 아닙니다. 그렇기 때문에 이 자동차는 그냥 데일리로 쓰기에는 좀 편리하고 오토지만 터빈 자동차이기 때문에 스테이지 1 튜닝을 했고, 또 서스는 그냥 BMW 어저스터블 코일 시스템을 집어넣어갖고, 왜냐면 여기에 코일 세팅이 있잖아요. 그렇게 했는데 이 자동차도 사실은 조금 궁금해요. Fucking hey, dude, this thing it just go. That's I barely gassed it. Yo, this is just, oh my god, that was fucking funny. 이 자동차는 그냥 밟아서 돌기만 하면은 와, 그냥 밟아. It's the turbo. It just,
You would never know.
you would never know. Wow, this is just a fun car.
I told you.
Yeah, it's just and you kind of feel secure in it.
That's right.
You know? Wow, that's funny. No, I knew because this one's brakes work so good. It's like I can brake late. The other one I have to brake at least a mile before. I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna stop there. So. It's good. This one's, it's got, the response on it is, okay, it's not really jerky because it's a sedan.
Right.
And but the power is there exactly where you need it, and it comes in, okay, it's not as dramatic.
Right.
Oh, that's good. I like it. 자, 일단 우리는 이제 친구네 집 와갖고 진짜 좋은 자동차들, 거의 꿈의 자동차들 많이 운전하고 즐겼는데, 사실은 자동차는 어떤 분들한테는 실용성 있는 차, 진짜 필요할 때 타는 차, 그리고 또 어쩔 때는 취미 생활 하시는 분들한테도 장난감일 수도 있지만, 일단 끝에 보면은 인생 살아가면서 열심히 일하고 나한테 조그만 무슨 선물, 나만의 시간, 나만의 취미, 저하고 이 알빈하고 맨 처음에 만났었을 때는 왜 많이 친해졌냐면은 진짜로 맨 처음에 이제 자동차에 대한 관심. 하지만 그 당시에는 이제 알빈은 이제 튜닝 같은 거에는 그 knowledge가 없었었는데 저하고 너무나도 친해졌기 때문에 거기서 이제 friendship 이어졌죠. So give them a little bit of a history on how we clicked because of cars and in the beginning how we started tuning your cars and stuff like that. Yeah.
So before I met June, I was in residency, and you didn't have a lot of money to spend on cars, so I didn't really do anything with my cars at that point. But I always liked cars, and I always look at the motor trends back in the day and look at the 0 to 60 times. And after I met June, he was like, "Hey, that car would be really cool if you lowered it." So he kind of hooked me up with people that did stuff like that, because back then not everybody did it like now, and I just kind of fell in love, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, and we went from wheels, the suspension, and then the exhaust and remapping. And then ultimately, when I went back to Korea to work, he started tracking cars, so he really dove into it.
I mean, you remember when we first started, I had an E60 M5.
Right.
And then when I started tracking, obviously, I started I wouldn't say really cheap cars, but pretty cheap cars. Remember about the RX, RX-8?
A used one.
A used
and
one.
I got it for real cheap for you.
Real cheap.
Who's the best dealer?
For sure.
They were asking how much.
I think it's 22,000.
And then we got it for how much?
16.5 or something
Out the
like that.
door.
Out the door.
Out the door. Other than that, basically people say, you put all that money into cars, you're crazy, but it's all relevant because some people like to put money into shoes.
Right.
Some people like to put money into clothes. I don't. I wear I wear this every day.
Right.
Right? So the penny that I save from here, I put into my hobby, and that's my stress relief. 나랑 알빈이 왜 친해지냐면 나도 술 안 마시고 알빈도 술 마시지 않고 우리도 뭐 파티하고 가서 놀고 이런 데 도박하고 이런 사람들이 아니기 때문에 it's very harmless.
Right.
I always say as long as you don't put any harm to anyone next to you or to your family, a hobby is harmless as long as you keep it to yourself and
That's right.
you don't harm anyone else doing it.
And you don't have to spend a ton of money. to
No.
do it. I mean, I think a lot of people think you have to spend all these,
No.
you have to buy supercars. I mean, I started with an RX-8. I was driving a GTI for a while. The 996 turbo, well, obviously that was expensive back in the day.
But that was from your dad.
That was from my dad.
It's a
And actually,
hand-me-down. I think whatever you have, you could try to make it the best for you. You don't have to spend a ton of money. It's you customize it, you specialize in what you want in your car and you make it yours. And who cares what other people think? I always like to tell people, don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to have the best car in the world. Even he's a doctor, he makes good money. He makes a lot of money. He lives in a nice, beautiful house, but every penny counts. And
That's right.
He's like me. When I get stuff, if it's not a deal, you don't get it.
I buy
right?
almost all my stuff used.
Yeah.
The only car I didn't buy used was the GT4.
Yeah.
Because at the time, it was expensive to buy it used. So I was like, I'm just going to buy it new because I knew no matter what, the price wasn't going to go down for many years.
Right.
And even then, it really hasn't done any movement.
Right.
So I kind of got that on my own. But you even helped me with the GTI, you remember?
Yeah, man. I've done. Hell yeah. So look into that camera. I want you to give a good message to people.
So I would just say, being in this hobby for the past decade, the one thing I've learned is really, you start off small with something that just very easily for you to afford, and then you kind of build off that. And I don't think it takes a lot of money. I think it's a good way to kind of have fun and kind of a release valve, what I do every single day, especially the last year with the pandemic, there was all this COVID disease going around, and I was working directly with patients like that, and cars really can give you an out to, get some of that, I wouldn't say frustration, but some of the stress kind of relief. And I think it's really, for me, it's been very positive for me in my life.
So I think everyone should know, it could be a car, it could be a skateboard, it could be a surfboard, it could be a handbag, it could be shoes. As long as you don't harm people around you and you do no harm and you can afford it, just get the best that you can afford and make it yours, right? So! 자, 여러분, 진짜로 오랜만에 또 우리 알빈과 또 시간을 지냈고, 알빈 멋진 집에 초대해 주셔서 이렇게 진짜 우리 좋은 공기도 마시고 좋은 자동차, 멋진 자동차 즐겼는데, 여러분들도 가끔 스트레스 풀으시려면은 자기만의 스트레스 방식, it's good. You need to relieve your stress too. So, you guys want to come in and say bam? Okay, come on, let's go. 자, follow, like, subscribe. 우리 준이가 여기 없기 때문에 또 이제 나 친구의 딸. 나중에 준이야 오면 같이 친구 될 거야. So on the count of 3, you ready? 1, 2, 3, bam! Woo!